Hi everyone, my name is Cameron and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my reading wrap up for the month of July 2020. You know what a wrap up is, let's just get into it. I read 14 books this month and 12 of them were during readathon, so I only read 2 books of my own volition, so I was in a bit of a reading slump actually, even though I read a fair amount. The first book I read was Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. I gave this one, I said on Goodreads I gave it 4 stars, but thinking about it I might give it a 3.5. This is about a girl called Ines who goes to a university called Catherine House. This university is incredibly mysterious and dodgy. No one's been inside who doesn't study there, and everyone who comes out of it seems to be very successful and incredibly known throughout the world, and it's all a bit precarious. There's a group of students studying this very mysterious substance that she doesn't know anything about but seems to have a lot of influence over the world. And basically it's just the mystery of her trying to figure out what this stuff is and what's going on in this university. So I liked this book, I thought it was fine. There was nothing incredibly wrong with it. My probably only gripe with it was it got a bit confusing at times. I knew what was going on, but sometimes I was just reading it and I would say, huh? And I would have to read the page over again. And not because I wasn't focusing, just because it explained things in a bit of a convoluted manner. But apart from that, it was fine. I liked the atmosphere. That was probably my favourite thing about this. It was really spooky and mysterious. I was invested. I wanted to know what was going on, but only really because of that atmosphere, not necessarily because I cared about the characters, which is something that I have to do to really enjoy a book. Ines was a fine character. She was interesting. She was quite morally grey, which I did like, but I just didn't connect to her, I don't think. She was a bit cold, and even to the reader she felt a bit cold. Overall, I liked this book, it was fine. I would recommend it if you're looking for more dark academia. It's definitely not like a new favourite or anything, but I did enjoy it. The next set of books I read were ones I read during Becca's Bookoplathon, which is a 48-hour readathon that I participated in this month. I have a vlog for it, so I'll link that down below in my description box if you haven't checked that out yet. The first book I read was Wildwood by Colin Malloy, illustrated by Carson Ellis. This is a middle grade low fantasy about a girl called Prue. Prue's baby brother is abducted by crows in front of her and taken into this wood that no one in the village is allowed to go in. So she and her friend Curtis go on this mission to rescue him and get caught up in this politics of this magical wood with talking animals. There's 3 main parts of the wood and they're all at war with each other and they get caught up in this war. I really enjoyed this book. It was a really strong middle grade, like it worked in that genre because it felt fun and exciting and like an adventure story, which I think kids would enjoy. But it also felt serious and there were really high stakes, which I liked. Sometimes middle grades don't have high stakes and they're just like a bunch of kids having fun, but this was like, it mattered, but it still maintained that like fun vibe, adventure vibe sort of thing, which I really appreciated. I really liked the woods, the magic system was fun, it was explained quite well and the world building was done quite well. I liked the characters, they were really funny. I mean, I haven't been like thinking about it since, it was just a good time. I gave this one 4 stars, I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you're into middle grade. The second book I read for the Bookoplathon was Sophocles' 3 Theban Plays. I don't have a lot to say about this because most of my thoughts have already been said by other people, and obviously this is a very highly acclaimed work. It's, if you happen to not know, these are 3 Greek plays written by one of the most famous Greek playwrights, Sophocles, all about Oedipus and his family. One of them's about Antigone, his daughter, but the other 2 are about Oedipus. I enjoyed these, I had a good time with them. I actually liked them more than I thought I would. I thought the writing might be a bit dry, but it really wasn't. I really like this translation. It was translated by Robert Fagles. This is the Penguin Classics edition. I thought it was really well done. The writing wasn't dry at all. I completely understood everything that was going on. I would recommend this book if you're looking to get into like Greek classics. It's a good one. The third book I read during the Bookoplathon was The Dog Who Dared to Dream by Sunmi Huang. This is a really sweet story about a dog, and it's her life story, birth to death, of just what she gets up to. It got really sad at some points, but it was also like uplifting and heartwarming, so if you're looking for something like that, I would definitely recommend it. It's short, it's quick, it's really easy to read, and I enjoyed it. The last book I read for the Bookoplathon, I started during the Bookoplathon and finished it afterwards, and that was Magonia by Maria Devana Headley. I really loved this book, more than I thought I would. To be honest, I haven't been thinking about it since, so I didn't get 5 stars, I got 4. It's about a girl called Aza who has a really bad lung disease that no one knows what it is. One day she starts catching glimpses of this ship just floating in the sky. Everyone thinks it's one of her hallucinations that are caused by her drugs. The only person who believes her is her best friend, Jason. At the beginning of this book, the friendship between Aza and Jason is really nice. It does evolve into romance, which kind of annoyed me, but I really liked their friendship at the beginning of the book. I thought it was really sweet and nice. I liked Aza as a character. She wasn't great, she was fine. She was a strong female lead, which we always like to see. The thing I loved the most about this book was the magic system and the world building. I thought it was really well done, how everything was developed and explained really well. The different species in this world was really nice, and how they interacted and how there was kind of like a slave vibe. And the villain was good. Like how the villainy was approached in this was really nice. It was an interesting take on villainy, which I quite liked. I enjoyed this book. There is a sequel. After I finish books, I always intend to pick up the sequel, but I don't know whether I will. To be honest, I've kind of forgotten about this book, even though I enjoyed it when it was a good time when I was reading it. I haven't been thinking about it since, so I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't. The next book I read was Unravel Me by Dorian. This is the second book in the Shatter Me series, which is about a girl called Juliet who has these powers that mean that if anyone touches her skin, they will suffer extreme amounts of pain and perhaps even die. The whole premise of this book is that there is an evil government called the Re-establishment, and Juliet and all her pals are trying to overthrow this government. Overall, I did really enjoy this series, more than I thought I would. I don't really like dystopian generally, but this one I did like. This, however, was my least favourite in the series, I think. I gave this one 3 stars. It was still fine. But in this one, I got annoyed at a couple of things. My main qualms with this was Juliet in this book. She was fine in the first one and fine in the last one, but in this one, I don't know why, she grinded my gears. A lot of this book is them waiting for something to happen, and it definitely felt like waiting. This is the longest in the series, and it did not need to be. There's a lot of petty relationship drama in this. What really brought this back for me were some of the other characters. I love Kenji, he's definitely my favourite. So the next series of books I read for the reading rush. I have 2 vlogs for the reading rush, one for the first half of the week and one for the second half of the week, so I'll link them both in the description if you haven't seen them yet. The first one I read was the Foxhole Court by Nora Sakovic. This is about a boy called Neil who goes into college because he's recruited into this team that plays this fictional sport called Exy. Each member of this team has a really traumatic past and has underlying like issues, whether they be about anger or drugs or whatever. And Neil definitely fits this, but we don't really know why. We're not entirely sure at the beginning of the book what happened in his past. I really didn't like the first half of this book. It was mostly just them playing this sport and beating each other up, which I wasn't really a fan of. You don't really understand any of the motives in this book for any of the characters because you don't know what any of them have going on, so they just seem like angry boys, and there are a couple girls, but it focuses mostly on the boys. It just seems like a bunch of angry boys playing a sport and hating each other, which I wasn't a fan of. But by the end, definitely I was really invested. It definitely picks up and you start learning more about what's going on, which I really appreciated. So I was definitely invested by the end, but I just didn't love the beginning, so I gave this 3 stars overall, and I did pick up the second one, which I'll talk about in a bit. The next book I read was Ignite Me by Dorian. This is the 3rd book in the Shatter Me series. I enjoyed this one a lot more than Unravel Me. I think this was my favourite in the series. There's definitely more like action in this, stuff is actually happening. Juliet is a much better character in this book. She actually starts acting rather than just reacting to stuff happening to her. There's much less waiting in this, even though it does still feel quite standstill at times. It's less like nothing's happening. I did really like how this talked about relationships, whereas the second one was a lot of like unnecessary drama. This was like they confronted each other and they talked about stuff, which I really liked. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but it's just how I felt. Feel free to prove me wrong in the comments. My main qualm with this was the pacing felt a bit weird. The majority of this book was them planning and waiting and reconvening as a group and all that good stuff, which I did really enjoy. I like that. I liked being with the characters a bit more and fully getting to know them. There are a bunch of characters I really like in this, like Kenji and James, and I do like Warner as well. Then the last like little bit where stuff like actually started to kick in and stuff happened went so quickly, just so quickly. It felt like this book could have ended just before the end, and then there could have been another one just this same size about the last like 10 pages of this. It was really strange. But overall I did like this. I gave it 4 stars, and overall I did enjoy the series. I know that there's more to this series, but to be honest, 3 is enough for me. If I don't absolutely love a series, I'm not gonna go past 3 books. The next book I read was The Way to the Stars by Kay Ancrum. And this is about a girl called Ryan who's obsessed with space, and one day another girl comes to her school whose mum is in space at the moment and is not coming back. And there was a lot of drama about this woman going to space because she was pregnant with her daughter during the training, and they kind of covered it up and it was a big scandal. So they kind of worked together to figure out what's happening to her mum and all that sort of stuff. Kay Ancrum is the author of one of my favourite books of this year, which is The Wicker King. This book was not as good in my opinion. I did enjoy it still, but it didn't hit the same, and I think because of those high expectations, this kind of fell a bit flat for me. I did still give it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. I really liked the relationship between Ryan and all her friends. Her friend group was really nice, and also Ryan and Alexandria, who's the new girl. I wasn't too invested in the plot because the plot isn't the focus of this book. Kay Ancrum's books are definitely, from what I have read just from the 2 of them, are character studies, and that really works in The Wicker King. Kay Ancrum's writing is beautiful in The Wicker King. I thought the whole like character study thing with this plot just didn't go as well. It could have been a lot more focused on what was happening rather than introspective, which so worked with The Wicker King, and I loved in The Wicker King. It was what made me love The Wicker King, but this just, it wasn't the same. So overall I give this one 4 stars. I would recommend it, I just didn't love it. The next book I read was Call Me By Your Name by Andrea Assman. If you watch my vlogs, you know how much this one destroyed me. This is my favourite book of the month without a doubt, and it might even be one of my favourite books of all time. Definitely one of my favourites of the year. This book destroyed me. If you don't know, this is about a young boy called Elio who's 17 in this book. He lives in Italy, and every summer his family takes in a foreign student, usually from America, to help them study and stuff like that. So this summer they take in a man called Oliver who's a postgrad student, and Oliver and Elio form this relationship that's complex and real and raw just over these 6 weeks in summer, and it's literally the whole book is just their relationship and what unfolds during the summer. I think about this book every day. Literally, no joke, I think about it all the time. I've not stopped thinking about it since I read it. The characters just literally felt like real people, and their relationship was the most realistic relationship I think I've ever read about in my life. It was so good. I don't think I can convey to you how much I loved this book. The writing is beautiful and so like personal, and it's very introspective and thoughts, and it felt almost like a diary entry. It was just like his exact thoughts on what was going on, and I loved this book so much. I thought it was so good. If you haven't picked this up, I would 100% recommend it. Next I read The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I don't have a lot to say about this book because most of what I could say has already been said. I don't have a lot to add. Obviously this is a massively popular book. It's a classic. It's very well loved. If you don't know, it's about a man called Dorian who meets this other man and who kind of sends him on a downward spiral of sin, basically. And there's a painting involved that he reflects his own sins onto. So instead of them showing on his face, they show on the painting. It's really interesting. I thought I was really scared that I wouldn't like this because obviously it's famous, but I'm not a big classics reader, but I did really enjoy this. I thought Dorian was a really interesting character. I liked how themes were explored and developed in this. I thought it went slower than I expected, but I also really liked that. The writing was beautiful. Normally I don't get on with like the classic writing style, but this was stunning. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book more than I thought I would. I'm really glad I read it because I probably wouldn't have if it didn't fit the prompts. If you somehow haven't picked this up, I would definitely recommend it. I would also recommend it for if you're just starting out with classics. I think this is a really good one to go for. I then read Bunny by Mona Award. I talk about this quite extensively in my vlog, so I'll link it down below. This is another dark academia book about a girl called Samantha who is studying at Warren University, and there's a group of girls in her classes who all call each other Bunny, and they're like basically like a Mean Girls-esque group, and she ends up joining them, and they're not just a group, they're more of like a cult. and that is explored in this. I loved the first half of this. I thought it was creepy and atmospheric, and I was really invested. I wanted to know what these girls were doing. I wanted to know what was happening, but the second half just absolutely lost me. It might have been because I was reading this during a 24-hour readathon and my brain was completely dead. The second half was just a bit confusing. The way things were described were just a bit too magic-y, and I wasn't sure how real things were. And normally I like that when you're not sure what's real and what's not, but this just didn't explain it, and I literally had just no idea what was going on. I was literally reading it like, I just don't know what I'm reading, I have no idea what's happening at all. I gave this 3 stars as a result. The first half was definitely 4 stars, but the second half was more of like a 2, so 3 stars is a good mix. The next book I read was On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden. This is a graphic novel set in space about a girl called Mia who joins a group of restoration workers. They're all queer and they're all great. This is also dual timeline, and how that's done is really well done. In the past timeline, she's at school and meeting this girl called Grace and forming a relationship with her, and in the present timeline she's joining this group. And the way things are revealed is really well done. I really enjoyed this book. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved the art style, I loved the writing and the plot development, I loved the world building, even though it's like the universe. I loved the characters and their relationships. Basically everything about this book was great. If you're into graphic novels, I would definitely recommend this. It's a big one though, but it's definitely worth it. It's fabulous. If you want to hear more about my like in-depth thoughts, go watch my vlog. The last book I read this month, which is also the last book for the reading rush, I haven't read anything this week, I've been busy, was The Raven King by Nora Sakavic, which is the second book to the Foxhole Court. There. I enjoyed this one a lot more than the Foxhole Court. I really enjoyed this. The thing that made this one a lot better than the Foxhole Court for me was the development of the characters. You learn a lot more about them and who they are and their motivations for things. I don't like reading characters being assholes and then not knowing their motivations for it, but this one you learn about their motivations and it makes it so much better. They also start to bond as a team, and that makes the relationships and the dynamic a lot better. Everything is just a lot more interesting and a lot more heightened in this. I really enjoy this. I've also got the third one ready to read on my nightstand, so I'm gonna get that one as soon as possible. But yes, I really enjoyed this one a lot more than the other one. I gave this one 4 stars. So there are the books I've read in July. I had a good reading month, I think. Let me know what you read in the comments. What was your favourite book of the month? One was definitely Call Me By Your Name. I'm also not going to do a haul because I didn't get that many books. If you do want to see what book I did buy, I have posted my haul on Instagram. It's always linked in the description as well. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you have a great day. Bye.